Some prisons are designed to punish, others to disappear you. Behind steel bars and concrete walls lie places so brutal, so inhumane, they blur the line between justice and cruelty. You've heard of prison being tough, maybe even dangerous. But what if I told you there are prisons where inmates are beaten for speaking, where the air reeks of blood and fear, and where the only escape is death? These aren't correctional facilities. They're psychological tombs. In these institutions, solitary confinement isn't punishment. It's a way of life. Sanitation is optional. Sleep is a privilege. And hope, that doesn't make it past the gate. The guards, sometimes just as ruthless as the inmates. The walls, covered in graffiti, etched not with art but with screams. And the silence, it's not peace. It's pressure, building, suffocating, until something snaps. In places like these, time doesn't heal, it haunts. Men enter, monsters emerge. Or they never leave at all. Governments call them solutions. Human rights groups call them violations. But one thing is certain. These prisons are terrifying not just because of who's inside, but because of what happens inside. This is not just a list. This is a descent into the darkest corners of the human experience, into the cells where the light doesn't reach, into the truth about what mankind is capable of when mercy is stripped away. So brace yourself, because these are the top 5 most terrifying prisons in the world. And once you hear what goes on behind their walls, you'll never think of justice the same way again. Number 5, La Sabanita Prison, Venezuela. If hell had an address, this might be it. Located in the blistering city of Maracaibo, La Sabanita wasn't just a prison. It was a battlefield, a collapsing, disease-ridden fortress ruled not by the government, but by the inmates themselves. Guards rarely ventured past the walls without fear of being overpowered or killed. Inside, chaos reigned. Originally designed to hold about 700 inmates, La Sabanita often crammed in over 3,700 men at its peak, 5 times its intended capacity. Imagine bodies sleeping on top of one another in dark, sweltering cells. Water? Scarce. Electricity? Intermittent. Medical attention? Practically non-existent. And in the sweltering Venezuelan heat, diseases spread faster than any guard could respond. Cholera, tuberculosis, and untreated wounds were as common as the rats that crawled through the halls. But overcrowding was just the start. La Sabanita was controlled by powerful prans, inmate gang leaders who operated like warlords. They extorted weaker prisoners, smuggled in drugs and weapons, and settled disputes not with words, but with machetes. Guns were commonplace. Homemade flamethrowers have even been reported. Violence wasn't a possibility. It was a daily reality. To survive, you had to ally yourself with someone strong, or be strong yourself. Between 1995 and 1996 alone, over 600 inmates were murdered. That's almost one every single day. But perhaps the most horrifying event came in 1994, a riot that left over 100 inmates hacked and burned to death, their bodies charred beyond recognition. The blood ran down the corridors. The screams echoed for hours. No help came. The guards, few and far between, watching the outside, powerless, or too afraid to intervene. Here, rehabilitation wasn't even a joke. It was an insult. You didn't go to La Sabanita to become a better person. You want to survive or die trying. For many, even the gangs outside the prison saw this place as a death sentence. If someone ended up here, they were considered already gone. And yet, for years, this was a functioning part of Venezuela's justice system, a forgotten corner where society dumped its unwanted and never looked back. But what makes La Sabanita truly terrifying isn't just the murders or the neglect. It's the complete collapse of control. When the thin veil of order is stripped away, when the state retreats and men are left govern themselves with desperation, rage, and fear, you get La Sabanita. In 2013, then President Nicolas Maduro ordered the prison shut down following an especially violent clash that killed 16 people and injured dozens more. But by then, the damage had long been done. La Sabanita had become a symbol not just a failed prison system, but what happens when humanity is left to rot unchecked in the darkest of conditions. Former inmates who managed to get out have told stories that sound like horror fiction. Cells turned into torture chambers, booby traps made from sharpened bed frames, guards turning a blind eye to executions. Some prisoners starved. Others were eaten alive by infection, and others simply vanished. Outside, families would line up daily, begging for news of loved ones. Some brought food, most brought prayers. But inside, no one could hear them. Or maybe they just didn't care. La Sabanita didn't just lock up criminals. It turned them into predators, or prey. And it showed the world what happens when a prison system forgets its purpose. When justice is replaced by carnage. And when the walls meant to protect society start to breed something much, much worse. So why is it only number 5 on this list? Because while La Sabanita was chaotic and horrifying, it was eventually shut down. The world saw the blood on its hands and turned away in disgust. But there are other prisons, ones that are still running today, where that same horror is not a thing of the past, but a brutal reality of the present. Number 4, Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. This is not the kind of prison you hear about in crime documentaries or sensational news reports. No, Diyarbakir is something else entirely. It's quieter, colder, and far, far more disturbing. Located in southeastern Turkey, Diyarbakir Prison gained its most horrifying reputation during the early 1980s, a time when Turkey was under military rule. But even now, decades later, the stories that leaked out still haunt those who dare to remember them. Because what happened inside those walls wasn't just punishment, it was systematic destruction. After the 1980 military coup, thousands of people, many of them Kurds, political dissidents, students, writers, were rounded up and thrown into Diyarbakir, not because they were dangerous, not because they were criminals, but because they spoke or thought or believed differently than the regime wanted. Once inside, these prisoners weren't treated as human beings. They were treated as enemies of the state, traitors deserving no mercy. Torture wasn't a hidden atrocity, it was a routine, a practice, a policy. The goal wasn't just to extract information, it was to erase identity, to force prisoners to reject their language, their heritage, and even their own names. There are documented accounts, hundreds of them, of prisoners being stripped naked, hung by their wrists for hours, electrocuted, or forced to crawl over broken glass. Others were beaten daily. Some were raped. Many were made to witness the abuse and humiliation of their fellow inmates as a form of psychological warfare. And worst of all, the victims weren't hardened criminals. Many were teenagers. Some were just children. Survivors describe how the guards forced them to salute the prison every morning, declaring, "I am proud to be a Turk," even if they weren't Turkish. Speaking Kurdish was forbidden. Any slip could earn you a beating. Or worse, one prisoner, just 16 years old, was reportedly locked in a dark cell for days without food. Another was forced to drink sewage water. Some were locked in coffin-sized boxes and left there for weeks, their minds slowly unraveling in total darkness. In 1984, four inmates went on a hunger strike to protest the inhumane conditions. They died in agony. Their deaths made headlines across Europe. But inside Turkey, silence. And that's the most terrifying part of Diyarbakir. It's silence. No screams echo from its walls. Not anymore. But they're still there, embedded in the concrete, etched into the rusted bars, waiting. For decades, the Turkish government denied or downplayed the atrocities. Some guards were even celebrated. But slowly, the truth began to surface through testimonies, leaked documents, and the haunted memories of those who made out alive. One survivor described it this way: "You didn't know if it was night or day. You lost track of time. And eventually, you lost track of who you were." That's what Diyarbakir was designed to do, not just to punish, but to erase, to turn people into hollowed-out ghosts, to crush culture and identity through brute force. In more recent years, there have been promises of reform. Portions of the prison have been shut down. Politicians have even spoken of turning it into a museum, a memorial to what was done there. But for many, the scars remain too deep, too fresh, Because for the families of those who died, for the survivors who still wake up screaming, and for the Kurdish community that still feels the weight of its past, Diyarbakir isn't history. It's a wound that never healed. And what makes this prison especially terrifying is that its horror wasn't born from lawlessness. It wasn't a failed state or gang war gone unchecked. No, this was state-sanctioned, organized, clean, and deliberate. The cruelty of Diyarbakir wasn't chaotic. It was cold. And cold cruelty is the most terrifying kind of all. Some prisons are infamous for violence, riots, and bloodshed. But Diyarbakir was a machine, built to crush the human spirit one cell, one scream, one silence at a time. And that's why it sits here on this list. Not because of what it was, but because of what it meant, and what it tried to erase. Coming up next, a prison that holds the most dangerous criminals on Earth, and isolates them so completely, it's said to drive some insane in just a matter of months. Number 3, ADX Florence. United States of America. This is not a place for second chances. It is where the U.S. government sends the people it never wants to see again. Buried deep in the Colorado Rockies, ADX Florence is America's highest security federal prison. Officially, it's called the United States Penitentiary Administrative Maximum Facility. But most people know it by another name, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Here, you'll find terrorists, cartel leaders, domestic extremists, serial killers, men like the Unabomber, the Boston Marathon bomber, El Chapo, Ramzi Youssef, the man who bombed the World Trade Center in 1993. If you're sentenced to ADX, you didn't just break the law. You became a threat to the nation. But this prison doesn't just lock you up. It buries you alive. ADX Florence is built for one thing: isolation. Every inmate spends 23 hours a day in a single concrete cell, 12 feet by 7. The walls are soundproofed. The narrow slit window is angled, so you can see nothing but sky. No mountains, no horizon. Just a thin reminder that the world still exists out there, somewhere. The beds are concrete. The desk is concrete. The stool? Bolted to the floor. Even the toilet is rigged, so it can't be used to flood the room. Every element is engineered not just for containment, but for total psychological control. Meals are pushed through a small slot in the door. Recreation is offered, but it means being escorted, alone, by 2 guards to a concrete exercise pen the size of a large closet. There's no gym, no yard, just 4 blank walls and a patch of sky above. You don't see other inmates. You don't hear them. You might go years without touching another human being. There are no riots here, no gang wars, no smuggled cell phones or drugs. That chaos doesn't exist because chaos requires interaction, and ADX doesn't allow it. It removes not just your freedom, but your presence. This isn't just imprisonment. This is erasure. Psychologists have long warned that prolonged solitary confinement causes severe mental deterioration, hallucinations, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts. Some inmates at ADX have reportedly started cutting themselves open just to feel something. Others have smeared their own feces on the walls. One man bit off his own finger and mailed it to a judge. And yet, this isn't a secret. This is how ADX was designed. Even some guards call it clean torture. No blood, no screaming, just silence and time. Endless, crushing time. Inmates rarely get visits. Phone calls are heavily restricted. For some, especially those under special administrative measures, known as SAMs, there's zero communication with the outside world. No letters, no interviews, no voice. You are invisible. In 2012, a group of ADX inmates filed a federal class action lawsuit arguing that the prison's isolation policies violated the 8th Amendment, protection against cruel and unusual punishment. Many of the plaintiffs were mentally ill. Some had attempted suicide multiple times. The lawsuit alleged that ADX wasn't treating them. It was breaking them. The Bureau of Prisons denied any wrongdoing, but the allegation stuck. Because here's the thing, ADX works. There are no escapes, no riots, no chaos, It is one of the most secure, controlled environments in the world. And it does exactly what it was built to do: disappear people. But at what cost? Justice is supposed to be about accountability, rehabilitation, maybe even redemption. But inside ADX Florence, there is no path forward. Just routine, just silence, just the quiet hum of artificial lights, and the weight of your own thoughts. It is the final stop. And that's what makes it terrifying. Not because of violence, not because of gangs, but because of the cold, surgical precision of the place. It is a facility built not for punishment, but for permanent isolation. No fights, no screams, just men, alone, year after year, until they die. ADX Florence doesn't look like a nightmare, but it is one, a slow, calculated one, designed to never let you wake up. Coming up next, a prison that shocked the world for how it publicly treats its inmates with no apology and no mercy. Number 2, Cecot Prison, El Salvador. A name you may have only recently heard, but one that already echoes with fear across an entire continent. This is not just a prison. This is a message. Cecot stands for Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo, the Terrorism Confinement Center. Opened in early 2023, it is one of the largest prisons in the Western Hemisphere. Built in just 7 months under orders from President Nayib Bukele, this facility was designed to hold the worst of El Salvador's gang epidemic. Members of MS-13 and Barrio 18, the 2 most violent gangs in the country. But Cecot isn't just massive, it's extreme, capable of housing up to 40,000 inmates. It's a sprawling complex of concrete, surveillance towers, barbed wire, and militarized checkpoints. It's so large, it has its own power plant and water supply. But size is not what makes it terrifying. It's what happens inside. There are no windows, no sunlight, no recreation yard, no visits from family, no phone calls, no contact with the outside world. Inmates are marched in by the thousands, shirtless, heads shaved, hands zip-tied behind their backs. They're forced to kneel shoulder to shoulder, legs crossed, heads down. No eye contact, no speaking. Guards in full riot gear tower above them with assault rifles, barking orders. The now infamous footage, broadcast proudly by the Salvadoran government, shows these prisoners stacked like bodies, tattooed skin, bruised faces, chains clinking as they're herded like livestock. It's not a leaked video. It's state propaganda. A warning to criminals everywhere. This is your future. Inside the prison, inmates are kept in massive cell blocks, up to 100 per room, with only 2 toilets. There is no yard time, no rehabilitation, no legal counsel once you're inside. There are no beds, only concrete slabs. Lights stay on 24/7. Silence is enforced. Dissent is punished. Solitary confinement means being locked in a steel box with 0 light and 0 sound. Inmates are not allowed outside, ever. The entire structure is designed to break not just bodies, but identities. Tattoos, one symbols of power, mean nothing here. Hierarchies, gang rankings, reputations, all are stripped away. There are no kings behind these bars, only numbers. Cecot's defenders say this is exactly what's needed. For decades, gangs held El Salvador hostage. Extortion, murder, recruitment of children, entire neighborhoods ruled by fear. In 2022 alone, over 60 people were killed in a single day, sparking a national state of emergency. Bukele's response was swift and brutal. Over 75,000 arrests followed in less than 2 years, and Cecot became the centerpiece. The president called it the final stop for terrorists. But critics, both inside and outside the country, are calling it something else. A human rights catastrophe in the making. Thousands have been detained without trial. Families say innocent men and teenagers have disappeared, arrested for having tattoos, for walking home too late, for simply living in the wrong neighborhood. The emergency laws have suspended basic due process. Many inmates have no charges filed, no court date, no lawyer. And once you're inside Cecot, you may never leave. There are no independent inspections, no journalists allowed inside. The government controls every image, every headline. And for now, the public approves. Crime rates have dropped dramatically. Homicides have plummeted. Bukele's popularity has soared. But the question remains, at what cost? Is safety bought with silence? With mass incarceration? With collective punishment? What makes Cecot terrifying isn't just the violence of its inmates. It's the violence of its design. A prison that doesn't hide its brutality, but advertises it. A prison built not just to contain criminals, but to intimidate an entire population. It is clean, cold, efficient, and merciless. There are no riots here, no gangs running the blocks, but there is fear, relentless, state-sanctioned fear. And for many inside and outside its walls, that fear feels dangerously close to tyranny. Because Cecot isn't a relic of the past. It's not a warning from history. It's brand new, it's modern, it's now, and it's spreading. Other countries are watching. Some are already taking notes. And that is what makes Cecot not just terrifying for El Salvador, but for the world. Number 1, Black Dolphin Prison. Russia, on the border of Kazakhstan, hidden in the icy expanse of Orenburg Oblast, sits a place that is close to hell on earth as you can find. The official name is Penal Colony Number 6, but everyone knows it by one name, Black Dolphin. It's a name whispered in Russia's criminal underworld with genuine fear, because no one sent to Black Dolphin ever comes back. This is where Russia buries its worst. Serial killers, cannibals, terrorists, mass murderers. These are not common criminals. These are monsters. Men who have slaughtered entire families, who've murdered children, who've killed and killed again. Over 700 inmates. Together, they've murdered more than 3,500 people. But at Black Dolphin, their past horrors mean nothing, because now they're the ones being broken. From the moment a prisoner arrives, they are blindfolded, not for their protection, but to disorient them. Guards bend them forward at a 90-degree angle, hands cupped behind their back, arms lifted high. In this position, they are marched through the halls like animals. Their heads are kept below the guards' waist so they cannot memorize the layout of the prison. They are not referred to by name. They are not spoken to like men. They are numbers, files, units of risk. Their cells are 2 layers of steel doors and bars. Surveillance cameras watch 24 hours a day. Guards check on them every 15 minutes, even through the night. The lights are never turned off. Not ever. Inside the cell, there's no rest. Inmates are not allowed to sit or lie on their beds during the day. They must stand for 16 hours, hands behind their backs, facing the bars. Their only view, a concrete wall and the blank stares of the guards assigned to watch them. There is no privacy. Toilets are exposed. Meals are pushed through a small slot. A bowl of soup may be bread. No knives, no forks, just what's needed to survive. Nothing more. Exercise? 1 hour a day, but not outside. They're led to a cage, steel bars overhead, stone floor below. It's smaller than most parking spaces. No sun, no open air, just cold wind and hard walls. There is no rehabilitation at Black Dolphin. No parole, no second chance. Because no one sent here is expected to change. They are expected to die here. Many of them will, after decades of isolation, silence, and psychological decay. Their families will never visit. They're too far away, or too afraid. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter, because these men are ghosts. One former warden put it plainly, the prison is designed to make the inmate feel like he is already dead. The guards are trained not just to secure prisoners, but to control every aspect of their existence. There is no eye contact, no casual speech. Every movement is monitored, every breath accounted for. Even the name Black Dolphin is a cruel irony. It comes from a sculpture, a crude metal dolphin made by the inmates, now displayed at the front gate. It's cheerful, playful, but nothing about this place is light. This is a prison without mercy, a place where punishment has no end, where suffering is not a side effect. It's a system. Russia defends Black Dolphin. Officials say it keeps the country safe from the worst of the worst. And that's true. These are men who've done unthinkable things. But even monsters feel fear. Even they can be broken. And that's what Black Dolphin does best. It doesn't just hold people. It unmakes them. It removes time, identity, hope. It replaces them with routine, obedience, and silence. There are no riots here, no escapes, no scandals. Because everyone knows Black Dolphin doesn't allow chaos. It allows only one thing: control. Total, permanent, inescapable control. It is the coldest, harshest, most unforgiving prison in the modern world. And that is why it stands undisputed at the top of this list. Etaway, and survival becomes a daily battle of the mind. These prisons aren't just concrete and steel. They are reflections of how far societies will go to control, punish, and contain. But what do they say about us? About justice, about fear, about power? Let me know in the comments. Which of these prisons disturbed you the most? And do you think any of them go too far? If this video made you think, or made you uneasy, then share it. The world needs to see what happens behind the walls most of us will never be allowed to enter. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because in the next video, we're going even deeper. This was only the beginning. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and never stop questioning what lies in the shadows.